The Overmind Lives. The concept of the Omega Point is a philosophical and theological idea proposed by the French Jesuit priest and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. It represents a key element of his broader philosophical and spiritual framework, often referred to as Teilhardian or Teilhardianism. The Omega Point is a complex and visionary concept that encompasses themes of cosmic evolution, consciousness, and the ultimate destiny of the universe. Here's an elaboration of the idea. Cosmic evolution and complexity. Teilhard de Chardin was deeply influenced by his scientific background as a paleontologist. He observed the long process of cosmic and biological evolution and proposed that the universe has been evolving toward greater complexity and consciousness over billions of years. This evolutionary perspective is central to the Omega Point concept. Point of convergence. The Omega Point is envisioned as a hypothetical point of convergence and culmination in the future of the universe. It represents the ultimate goal of cosmic evolution, where all matter and consciousness in the universe come together in a unified state. Uniting all in God. Teilhard de Chardin, as a Jesuit priest, framed the Omega Point in a theological context. He saw the Omega Point as the moment when the universe would achieve a state of unity with God, often referred to as the cosmic Christ. In this view, the Omega Point represents a cosmic, divine, and unifying presence. Emergence of Noosphere. Teilhard de Chardin introduced the concept of the Noosphere, which is the sphere of human thought and consciousness. He believed that human beings play a significant role in the evolution of the universe by contributing to the development of the Noosphere. The Omega Point is seen as the culmination of the Noosphere's evolution. Evolution of consciousness. Central to the Omega Point concept is the idea that the universe is not only evolving in terms of physical complexity but also in terms of consciousness. Teilhard de Chardin believed that as the universe evolves, it becomes increasingly conscious and self-aware. Theological implications. The Omega Point has theological implications in Teilhard de Chardin's thought. It suggests that the universe's evolutionary journey has a purpose and direction, ultimately leading to a state of union with the divine. Controversy and criticism. Teilhard de Chardin's ideas, including the Omega Point, have been both celebrated and criticized. Some view them as visionary and inspiring, while others see them as speculative and not grounded in empirical science. Theologians have also engaged in debates about the compatibility of Teilhard's ideas with traditional Christian theology. Here are some of the main criticisms of the Omega Point idea. Lack of empirical evidence. One of the primary criticisms is the lack of empirical evidence supporting the concept of the Omega Point. Teilhard's ideas are often seen as speculative and not grounded in empirical science. Critics argue that his vision of cosmic evolution and the ultimate convergence of all matter and consciousness lacks scientific rigor. Defense. Teilhard's Omega Point is primarily a philosophical and theological concept, not a scientific hypothesis. It is rooted in his interpretation of cosmic evolution and is intended to provide a framework for understanding the ultimate purpose of the universe. Just as philosophical and theological ideas may not be empirically testable, the Omega Point serves as a philosophical reflection on the direction of cosmic evolution rather than a scientific theory. Theological controversy. The theological implications of the Omega Point have sparked theological debates. Some theologians question whether Teilhard's concept is compatible with traditional Christian theology, particularly the idea of divine creation and the role of human free will. Teilhard's blending of evolutionary thought with Christian theology has been a subject of contention. Defense. Teilhard's theological ideas are meant to stimulate dialogue and exploration at the intersection of science and faith. While they may challenge certain traditional theological views, they can also be seen as a creative attempt to reconcile scientific understanding with religious belief. The compatibility of Teilhard's ideas with specific theological doctrines can vary among theologians and denominations. Anthropocentrism. Critics argue that Teilhard's emphasis on the role of human beings in the evolution of the universe is overly anthropocentric. They contend that his view elevates humanity to a central and unique position in the cosmos, which may not be justified from a scientific or cosmological standpoint. Defense. Teilhard's emphasis on the role of humanity in cosmic evolution is not meant to promote an anthropocentric worldview but to highlight humanity's unique capacity for self-awareness and conscious reflection. His vision encourages a sense of responsibility and purpose in the human journey, recognizing that conscious beings are capable of contributing to the development of the Noosphere. Ambiguity. Teilhard's writings are often considered complex and ambiguous, making it challenging to pin down precise definitions and explanations of concepts like the omega point and the Noosphere. This ambiguity can lead to differing interpretations and hinder critical evaluation. Defense. Teilhard's writings can be challenging to interpret due to their depth and complexity, but this complexity reflects the multifaceted nature of the topics he explored. His ideas invite readers to engage in contemplation and philosophical inquiry. Ambiguity can be a characteristic of profound philosophical thought and should not necessarily be seen as a weakness. Scientific validity. From a scientific perspective, Teilhard's ideas have been criticized for their perceived lack of scientific validity. Critics argue that his concepts do not align with established scientific principles, and they question the scientific soundness of his ideas about the direction and purpose of cosmic evolution. Defense. Teilhard acknowledged that his ideas were speculative and philosophical in nature. They are not intended to supplant or compete with established scientific theories but rather to provide a broader, meaning-oriented perspective on cosmic evolution. As such, they should be evaluated within the context of philosophy and theology rather than empirical science. Rejection of teleology. Many scientists reject the idea of cosmic evolution having a predetermined teleological direction or purpose. The concept of a universe evolving toward a specific endpoint is at odds with the prevailing view of a universe governed by probabilistic and contingent processes. Defense. Teilhard's concept of the omega point does not require a predetermined teleology but rather envisions an emergent, directional process in cosmic evolution. It suggests that the universe is evolving toward greater complexity and consciousness, a view that some find compatible with contemporary ideas in cosmology and complexity theory. Overly optimistic. Some critics view Teilhard's vision as overly optimistic and utopian. They argue that his portrayal of the future evolution of the universe, where all matter and consciousness converge harmoniously, may not adequately account for the complexities, challenges, and conflicts inherent in the world. Defense. Teilhard's optimism can be seen as an inspirational and aspirational element of his thought. While he acknowledged the challenges and conflicts in the world, he offered a vision of hope and purpose that encourages individuals and societies to strive for unity, cooperation, and the conscious evolution of humanity. Eccentricity within theology. Within theological circles, Teilhard's ideas are considered eccentric by some. While they have inspired certain theologians, others find them unconventional and unorthodox, particularly in relation to the intersection of theology and evolutionary theory. Defense. Eccentricity in theological thought can lead to fresh perspectives and new avenues of exploration. Teilhard's ideas have sparked important discussions about the relationship between science and religion and the role of humanity in the cosmos. Even if some theologians find his ideas unconventional, they contribute to the diversity of theological discourse. It's important to note that Teilhard de Chardin's ideas continue to be the subject of ongoing discussion and debate. While some critics have raised valid concerns, others have found value in his visionary perspective on the relationship between science, spirituality, and the future of the cosmos. The criticisms of the omega point idea should be understood within the context of these broader discussions and differing viewpoints. The defenses offered here underscore the philosophical, theological, and inspirational nature of Teilhard de Chardin's omega point concept. While it may not align with all viewpoints or be universally accepted, it remains a thought-provoking framework for exploring the interconnectedness of science, spirituality, and the ultimate purpose of the universe, the omega point and the overmind. The idea of the overmind and Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's concept of the omega point share some thematic similarities, particularly in their exploration of the potential evolution of collective human consciousness and interconnectedness. However, they also have significant differences in their underlying philosophies and implications. Here's how they converse. Evolutionary progress. Teilhard de Chardin's omega point is a culmination of cosmic evolution, representing a future state where all of creation converges into a single, unified, and transcendent consciousness. It reflects a teleological view of evolution, suggesting that the universe is evolving toward a higher state of unity and complexity. The overmind, if seen as an autonomous entity or a higher form of collective consciousness, aligns with the idea of evolutionary progress. It represents a potential endpoint of human and cosmic evolution, where interconnectedness and consciousness reach a pinnacle. Cosmic and metaphysical context. Teilhard de Chardin's concept is deeply rooted in his theological and metaphysical framework. The omega point is not only a culmination of human and cosmic evolution but also a spiritual endpoint where all creation converges with the divine. It has strong religious and theological connotations. The overmind, while also engaging with metaphysical questions about collective consciousness and interconnectedness, may not necessarily be tied to religious or spiritual beliefs. It can be explored from both metaphysical and secular perspectives. Collective consciousness. The omega point represents the unification of human and cosmic consciousness into a single divine consciousness. It is a vision of collective awareness transcending individuality and separation. The overmind, as a concept, shares this emphasis on collective consciousness. However, it may not necessarily imply a divine or cosmic aspect but could represent a higher form of collective human awareness. Technological influence. Teilhard de Chardin's ideas predate the digital age and the influence of advanced technology on human interconnectedness. His concept of the omega point is more metaphysical and theological in nature. The overmind concept, in contemporary discussions, often considers the role of technology, particularly digital communication and the internet, in shaping the potential emergence of a unified collective consciousness. Teleology versus emergence. Teilhard de Chardin's concept implies a strong teleological view of evolution, suggesting that the universe has a purpose and is moving toward a predetermined endpoint. The idea of the overmind can be explored from both teleological and emergent perspectives. It may be seen as a potential emergent property of interconnected human consciousness rather than a predetermined endpoint. In summary, the concepts of the overmind and the omega point converse in their shared exploration of the evolution of collective human consciousness and interconnectedness. However, they differ in their philosophical and metaphysical foundations, with the omega point being deeply rooted in Teilhard de Chardin's religious and theological framework, while the overmind can be considered from various philosophical and secular perspectives, often emphasizing the role of technology in shaping interconnectedness. The omega point is a concept that represents the culmination of cosmic and biological evolution, a point of convergence, and the potential unity of all matter and consciousness with a divine presence. It reflects Teilhard de Chardin's unique synthesis of science, theology, and philosophy, offering a visionary perspective on the ultimate destiny of the universe. Despite the controversies, Teilhard de Chardin's ideas have had a significant influence on fields ranging from theology and philosophy to science and ecology. His perspective on evolution, consciousness, and the unity of all things has sparked ongoing discussions and explorations in various disciplines. As we contemplate Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's visionary concept of the Omega Point, we find ourselves at the intersection of science and spirituality, at the crossroads of human evolution and cosmic destiny. His ideas challenge us to embrace a profound interconnectedness, where the threads of our existence are woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. In this exploration of the Omega Point, we are invited to consider not only our place in the grand tapestry of existence but also our potential to contribute to the unfolding story of the universe. Teilhard de Chardin, a prophet of the overmind, leaves us with a tantalizing vision of a future where unity, spirituality, and the evolution of human consciousness guide our shared journey. The Omega Point calls to us with the promise of a brighter, more interconnected future, a future where we, as a global community, shape our collective destiny. Embrace the overmind.